Good morning, mayors. I know that everybody is trickling in and we were out at the memorial service, but please take your seats. It is after 10 a.m. and so we are behind schedule. So as mayors, please file in. I'm going to call our plenary session to order. First, I want to thank all of you who took time to come out and join us early this morning for the memorial service at the Oklahoma City National Memorial and Museum. Mayor Cornett, thank you for really helping us to remember. And thank you for what your foundation has done to help us with this morning's service, bringing us together. And on a lighter note, awesome hoedown. This was your first hoedown, too. And it was, Mayor Cornett, you have good hoedowns in Oklahoma City. So thank you for a fun evening and that Chihuly and Hollywood display. Wow, that was unsurpassed. Thank you so much. Great evening. For over 30 years, Nationwide Retirement Solutions has paired with the Conference of Mayors and city workers across the nation to provide the deferred compensation that so many workers need to live securely in retirement. Nationwide's extensive knowledge of public sector retirement plans, leadership in the 457 deferred compensation area, and ability to offer a number of tools to educate city officials and their employees, making Nationwide the best in the industry. The new leadership of Ann Arvia and Kane Hayes, who came to Nationwide this past year, has brought a fresh energy to this thriving partnership that we share with them. And here to tell you more about Nationwide and our 31-year partnership is our longtime friend and supporter, Louis Watson, Vice President of Strategic Partnerships. Louis?
All right, thank you, Mayor Coleman, for that. Your check is in the mail. Mayor Counts, thank you very much for your leadership and your partnership. Tom, thank you very much, as well as the staff. We're proud to be a sponsor this year of the 78th annual meeting here in Oklahoma City. Mayor Cornett, your staff and volunteers have done a fantastic job, and we thank you for that. We're also proud to be a platinum member of the Business Council. We've been a platinum member for many years, and we thank you for that partnership as well. As Mayor Count said, this is our 31st year of partnership with the U.S. Conference of Mayors, helping city workers save for retirement through the USCM Deferred Compensation Program. Cities, towns, and municipalities around the country have selected Nationwide to be their provider of choice in helping their employees save for retirement. I guess you might be wondering why cities across the country have selected Nationwide. I'd just like to share 3 to 4 reasons for that. Our experience. Nationwide has been in this business for 36 years, helping city workers save for retirement. In fact, we helped write legislation in 1973 to bring this about for public sector workers. The financial strength of our company, Nationwide, very financially sound company. We're very particular with regards to our investment philosophy when it comes to our investments for our company, but also for the members who save within the deferred compensation program. The flexibility of the program that we have cities and counties from 5 employees all the way up to our largest plan that we have in the country, which is the state of New York's Deferred Compensation Program, with over 250,000 eligible employees. With over 8,000 plans, 1.6 million participants around the country, and $49 billion under assets under management, we're pleased to be the largest provider in the country in helping city workers save for retirement. When you look at the USCM Deferred Compensation Program, there are over 4,000 plans, cities, counties, municipalities, and special districts that are in the program, over 316,000 city workers that are in the program, with about $6.1 billion under management. Most importantly, our most valuable asset in helping city workers save for retirement is our associates. We're very pleased that we have associates around the country that are dedicated to helping city workers save through one-on-one consultations and workshops. In today's economy, you're looking for somebody to be there for your employees when times are not so good. And our employees are on the forefront working with your employees in helping them understand the benefits of staying put and saving money for retirement. And finally, I want to thank Mayor Cornett for his support in allowing Nationwide to be the provider of choice for the city of Oklahoma City since 1972. For the past year, about 40 cities have decided to select Nationwide as their provider, and many of you in this room are part of that, so we want to thank you very much. If you're in the program today, thank you for allowing us to take care of your employees. If you're not in the program today, we encourage you to take a look at the USCM Deferred Compensation Program, because as you know, the commercial, Nationwide is on your side. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Louis, and thank you, Nationwide. You are a great partner to the U.S. Conference of Mayors. Our next year's winter meeting will take place on the 50th anniversary of the inauguration of President John F. Kennedy. I know many of you got into public service as a result of his call for us to do more for our country. To talk about what we are planning to do to commemorate the 50th anniversary and how you can get involved, I'm going to ask our CEO and Executive Director, Tom Cochran, to talk about what we, the Conference of Mayors, are planning. Tom, will you join me? And I believe that our former colleague, Bill Purcell, the former mayor of Nashville and now the director of the Institute of Politics at the John F. Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University, will be joining Tom to present some thoughts and concepts for us. Tom?
Well, Mayor Purcell will come and talk about exactly what Ms. Caroline Kennedy and the Kennedy family we're going to be doing with mayors. We thought it was appropriate. On our 75th anniversary in LA, we did a series of videos called the 12 Defining Moments. And in 1963, 5 months before the president was assassinated, he came to Honolulu and outlined his 5-point plan on civil rights. And of course, it was another time in history when leaders come and give it to the mayors to take it. And the video will talk about that. And then Mayor Purcell, we're looking forward. There are a number of mayors here that were involved in the Kennedy campaign. And of course, I was young then. I was involved in it too. But anyway, his spirit still lives, and if it were not for him, I may be running a cotton gin in South Georgia. I seriously say that. So let's show the video, and then Mayor Purcell is going to come up and talk about some ways that you can be involved as we celebrate the 50th anniversary of this great president. In June of 1963, at our annual Conference of Mayors, President Kennedy came to Honolulu with a special message and said these words: "I am here, in short, to discuss with you a problem which is not local but national, not northern or southern, eastern or western, but a national problem, a national challenge. And I am talking about the problem of race relations. But in the last analysis, what happens in Birmingham or Chicago or Los Angeles or Atlanta depends in large measure upon the leadership in those communities. On your return home from this conference, you can set an example in your communities to which the timid can rally and which those clinging to the past cannot ignore." With those words, President John Kennedy put civil rights on the agenda of the United States Conference of Mayors and the nation. The Conference of Mayors had been mostly silent on this issue until then. But at the prodding of the young president, the assembled mayors adopted a resolution that endorsed a series of policy actions designed to help move the country toward racial equality. President Kennedy returned to Washington immediately after he spoke to the mayors, and he made his first presidential civil rights address to the nation. 5 months later, President Kennedy was assassinated. Taking up President Kennedy's challenge, the mayors collectively began to take an active role in pushing for civil rights. The conference joined in coalitions to push for the Voting Rights Act, affirmative action, and other social programs. The conference undertook a 10-year leadership role in the implementation of civil rights at the local level. In 1964, testifying for the Conference of Mayors, there was a white Southerner, Mayor Ivan Allen of Atlanta, expressing support of the Public Accommodations Act. In 1967, black mayors were elected in cities: Carl Stokes in Cleveland and Richard Hatcher in Gary. Black mayors were welcomed into our leadership, and in 1976, Ken Gibson of Newark became our first black president. Our current president, Trenton Mayor Doug Palmer, follows in that tradition, and in fact, he and I were present a couple of months ago in Selma as we commemorated the 40th anniversary of Bloody Sunday in Selma, Alabama. The civil rights issue placed the conference at the head of an urban alliance. The conference's championship of civil rights continues today.
Let me thank this conference and Tom Cochrane this morning in a very personal way for what we just saw, for the reminder of how important President Kennedy was to this country, but at the same time, how important this conference has been in the progress that we have made. And so it's a great privilege to stand here with our President, Elizabeth Kautz, and so many great mayors on the podium and in the audience, and to remember again what this conference has meant to all of us throughout all of these years and will continue to mean. I also want to recognize and acknowledge the presence of my own mayor from Nashville, Carl Dean, who during the last several weeks has been through incredible challenges and tragedy and stood tall and strong and led the city of Nashville to a better and stronger place and will continue to do so as well. January 20th, 2011 will mark 50 years since President Kennedy was inaugurated and sparked an era of progress, innovation, and inspiration, and a critically important piece of which we saw just a moment ago. His words ring true for a new generation of Americans, and I'd like to introduce for you one further brief clip that was produced by Ed Schlossberg.
Great change is at hand, and our task, our obligation, is to make that revolution, that change, peaceful and constructive for all.
The effort to improve the conditions of man is not a task for the few. It is the task of all nations.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Peace is a daily, a weekly, a monthly process, gradually changing opinions, slowly eroding old barriers, quietly building new structures. Change is the law of life. And those who look only to the past or the present are certain to miss the future. Every American ought to have the right to be treated as he would wish to be treated, as one would wish his children to be treated. Do not pray for easy lives. Pray to be stronger men.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. My fellow citizens of the world, ask not what America will do for you, but what together we can do for the freedom of man.
Over the course of the next year, the Kennedy family, the John F. Kennedy Library Foundation, the Kennedy Center, and the Institute of Politics, a living memorial to President Kennedy, as well as America, will celebrate the anniversary of his presidency. We aspire to bring forward his words and ideas to again ignite the imagination of America, especially America's youth, challenging them to define their own call to greatness and help them make sense of the complex issues we all face today. Events have already been planned. On January the 20th, 2011, there will be a celebration of President Kennedy's inauguration at the U.S. Capitol. This event will coincide with the U.S. Conference of Mayors winter meeting. The Kennedy Center will host a 2-week celebration of the President's special commitment to the arts. There will be an historic web-based component coming this fall. The Kennedy Library will be the first presidential library to digitize all of the administration's documents and make them universally available to the public. President Kennedy once said, and I quote, "A strong America depends upon its cities," close quote. He understood. This January, we're inviting mayors to join us in engaging young people in their communities by showing the President's inaugural address in January and asking them what they can do to make a difference in their cities, in their country, and in their world. We will be putting together materials for you that you can use in all of the various ways that mayors will understand best how to proceed in individual schools and in larger community-based efforts. That will be in your hands. But the materials that we provide to you will give you a basis upon which you can reach out to the young people in your community. We'll be contacting each of your offices very soon with a curriculum, as well as sharing with you our plans going forward. And in the meantime, we understand so very well that innovation occurs at the city level in this country. And so as you have ideas and thoughts about how these historic anniversaries going forward can be shared, can be lifted up, and can re-energize the people in this country, and especially the people in your cities, you should share them with us as well. To Mayor Mick Cornett, you have been an incredible host to us. You have inspired us this morning and each day as you've inspired the people of Oklahoma City. It's just a reminder again of what mayors do all of the time, something that President John F. Kennedy understood so well, and in the year ahead, we hope and believe, will be re-energized and reintroduced to the people of this country and to the world. Thank you so very, very much.
Thank you, Bill and Tom. And mayors, look forward to a great winter meeting, because I know that with the work that we're going to be doing with Mayor Bill Purcell and the Harvard Institute, we will have a great winter meeting that will inspire and energize the people of America through the leadership of mayors. Now it gives me great pleasure to introduce a friend, Mary Kate Campbell, DuPont Communications Manager, who for the last 9 years has championed a USCM signature program, Cities United for Science Progress, or CUSP. DuPont has become part of the fabric of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. When we ask, they deliver. DuPont has a wealth of knowledge they share with mayors every day, from the most effective ways to implement a solar strategy to the best strategies to protect our police and firefighters, to creative ways to redevelop brownfields. Mayors, please use them and their scientific knowledge as a resource. Today, Mary Kate is joining us to update us on our partnership and announce the winner of our Lead Safe for Kids' Sake grant competition that over the last 9 years has granted more than $4.5 million to over 40 different USCM member mayors. Please welcome Mary Kate Campbell. Mary.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good morning, and thank you, Mayor Kautz. It's certainly my pleasure to be here in Oklahoma City to update you on our partnership and to announce the winners of our Lead Safe for Kids' Sake grant program. Over the past 9 years, we have worked with mayors to bring science, education, and resources to assist you in making your cities safer, smarter, and healthier. And I'm happy to report that our partnership continues to grow and go in new directions. I know you're all familiar with our Science in the School program, where we introduce kids to science in a fun way with some of DuPont's youngest, brightest, and most promising engineers. This program recognizes the value of helping mayors inspire tomorrow's engineers to build better cities, if not a better world. We've brought science in the schools to more than 30,000 students in some 400 schools and 150 cities across the country. Here, the genius of DuPont becomes kid-friendly through hands-on experiments, contests, and other activities, from basic science to alternative power. And we're happy to be a founding member of the Mayor's Climate Protection Center. As a company, we have been working on sustainability issues for more than 20 years. This work goes way beyond reducing our environmental footprint. We are among the world's leaders in developing and commercializing renewable bio-based materials, advanced biofuels, energy-efficient technology such as photovoltaics, and enhanced safety and protection products. And there are times as a DuPont employee when I must admit I'm still amazed when I learn about a new technology. So last week I was talking with one of our businesses about what new technology mayors would be interested in. Is there anything new and exciting I should talk about? And they told me about Reliatran Solid Insulation Distribution Transformer. Sounds exciting. But it's actually a giant deal. It's a really big deal. It's the first innovation in transformer technology in 100 years. And so I have to talk to them about why you care, try to figure it out. And so what I learn is, you remember those big green boxes that were in your neighborhood when you were a kid, and they were the base when you played freeze tag and they got hot in the summer and you climbed on them? Those things, well, all of those things, up until this product, contain between 30 and 50 gallons of mineral oil, which is flammable and considered hazardous by the EPA. So this made people reluctant to put them underground because of the potential environmental and safety hazard. Who knew? One of these guys in DuPont did. So this new product, Reliatran, which I think there's something on the table that you can learn more about, is designed, it does not contain any oil. It's designed to be submerged, and therefore making it especially attractive in coastal areas where power loss due to flooding and hurricanes are concerns. And it is protective of the environment. A city planner's dream. Especially as we all know, in all the new developments, everyone wants utility lines underground. So if you or one of your city planners would like to learn more about this product, I'm happy to put you in touch with the folks who think about it every day. I'm glad that we have those people who think about these products at DuPont. In terms of photovoltaics or solar energy, DuPont's a leading PV supplier with more than 25 years of experience producing 10 essential components of solar cells. With a broad and growing portfolio of innovations in the industry, DuPont designed innovations enable solar modules to run more efficiently, last longer, and provide safety and sustainability. We recently announced the opening of a new laboratory in Wilmington, Delaware, which is dedicated to R&D that will be focused on making solar modules last longer and cost less. That will make it easier for more people and more communities to access this important technology. And we're working with USCM to increase our city's knowledge and access to solar energy. The purpose of this program is to help accelerate solar adoption through education and support drawn through our 25 years as a leader in the industry. We're committed to protecting the people who protect us, law enforcement, firefighters, and first responders, with innovative products that enable them to perform their jobs as safely as possible. Our products protect lives, and our scientists are always working to develop the next generation of these products to protect those who so bravely put their lives at risk for others. At the winter meeting, I mentioned two of those products designed to take our Kevlar and Nomex to new levels of protection. One was Kevlar XP, which is a bullet-resistant body armor that provides superior bullet-stopping power while considerably reducing the the trauma from bullet impact. This technology is now available and is certified by the National Institute of Justice. The other is Nomex On Demand, a smart fiber that reacts to a thermal lining temperature of 250 degrees Fahrenheit and expands to provide more than 20% more thermal protection in firefighter turnout gear. This technology has gained National Fire Protection Association certifications and is also available. Really amazing stuff. And we realize that even when budgets become tight, the work of your city's first responders doesn't go away. And so today I'd like to call your attention to two programs that will help some of your public safety officers benefit from these new technologies. First, and this is available now, is DuPont's WARE trial program. Here, we will work with you or whoever in your city makes decisions about how to outfit your first responders, your fire folks, and your police officers. To identify a WARE trial. So let's say a select group of those folks, 10 to 20 folks, to provide fire turnout gear or body armor free of charge. What we ask is that you provide feedback to us on wearability, comfort, weight, how it performs for you. 2 points, these are not test products. These are certified by the agencies I referenced earlier. 2, the feedback process is not cumbersome. I asked that question. We know that these folks have far more important work to do, so it is an easy process. If you are interested, please let me know, and I'll put you in touch with one of our product managers who will be in touch to determine what would work for your city. Second, and in collaboration with USCM business partner Lion Apparel, we are working to develop an additional program that will get these new technologies into your communities through a donation program, so that your law enforcement, firefighters, and emergency responders can begin benefiting from these cutting-edge technologies. And I hope to be back here in January to update you on what that program will look like. We've done some great work together on the issue of elevated blood lead levels in our children, in our city's children. Since the inception of our partnership, DuPont has put close to $5 million into your neighborhoods through the USCM DuPont Lead Safe for Kids Safe grant program. And as a result, and coupled with the efforts by the federal government and your own staff members, the reduction of elevated blood lead levels across the nation has been one of the biggest public health success stories of the past 50 years. Blood lead levels throughout the country are now lower than they have been in recent history. With that, I'm pleased to announce the winners of the 2010 USCM DuPont Grant Program. The winner of the second place award of distinction and a grant of $55,000 is Mayor Byron Brown of Buffalo, New York, and accepting on behalf of Mayor Brown is Oswaldo Mestri, Jr., Director of Citizen Services in the Mayor's Office. And this year we have two winners tied for first place. The first winner of the Award of Excellence and a grant of $100,000 is Mayor Kasim Reed of Atlanta, Georgia. And our second award of excellence and a grant of $100,000 goes to Mayor Stephanie Miner of Syracuse, New York, and accepting on behalf of Mayor Miner is Deputy Mayor John Cowan. Thank you all very much for having me, and we look forward to celebrating a decade of partnership with the USDM in January.
Mayors, if you have not had science in the school program, you should find out about that. I had DuPont come out, and they worked with our engineers and their engineers, and we had 3 or 4 of our schools, elementary schools, involved in the program, and now I know that I'm going to have to talk to Mary Kate because the school district would like to have more of it, because it truly, truly helps our children to see science in a new and fun way. And because of that, we have put in place a program in our school district that's called Project Lead the Way. That's a follow-up from the elementary school, and now in junior high they get into Project Lead the Way. So it's a fabulous program to get kids to really love science and math. Let me shift and transition. Recently, the United States Conference of Mayors joined with the American Architectural Foundation in announcing a new national award named for our Dean of Mayors, Joe Riley of Charleston. Mayor Riley, as many of you know, yes. Mayor Riley, as many of you know, is the founder of the Mayor's Institute of City Design program. I am a beneficiary of that program. It was under that program that you've heard about the renovation and reinventing of a 54 depressed area in my city that is now a mixed-use development and is 97% built out. And it is a project where the Performing Arts Center is located, and it is a project that went through the Institute, the Mayor's Institute for City Design. And if you haven't gone and you have a project, you need to consider going to the Mayor's Institute on City Design. So you see, this joint award will be the most prestigious honor a mayor will be able to receive in urban design. So to tell you all about this award and how to apply, let me call on Tom Cochran, as well as Ron Bogle, President and CEO of the American Architectural Foundation. Tom and Ron, tell us about this award and what we can do.
Thank you. Well, I wanted to, if I could, just sort of set it up and talk just a minute about the Mayor's Institute of City Design. Started in 1986. We had 46 of them. And it's not 300 people in a room like this. You got a problem. You got a broken down strip mall, 1970, bring it on in. You got 77 acres that you're thinking about a park. 10 years ago, Mayor Cornett, first year in office, took this concept to the Mayor's Institute of City Design. Next year, it will be completed. 77 acres, core to shore. It's like Central Park. So these are not theoretical discussions. You know, here's what I said about that award. Senator Nelson was an astronaut, and he went to the moon. And when he got up there, he looked and he saw Earth in a different kind of way than when he was back on Earth. So when you come into the design institutes, because of the experts that Ron brings in there and other mayors, you look at your city in a different way. You stand back and you look at one project. And we saw on the clip yesterday the Performing Arts Center. Mayor Kautz brought the idea of the Performing Arts Center to the Mayor's Institute on City Design. And Mayor Kautz was almost defeated, but she had courage. It's a beautiful thing in her memory. Joe Riley said you can make all the speeches you want to make. It's what you build and how you build it. Design enters into transportation, we are finding. Design enters into housing, and even design is in green stuff too. So design is becoming a big part, and the mayors are doing it. The partners, and these are real partners, Ron Bruegel heads up the American Architect Foundation. Ron, why don't you come on up while I'm talking and be with me? I feel better. When you have someone like Joe Riley, who started this design institute, you know, I'm going to tell you the truth. Ron and I were talking one day. I said, you know, we need an award. We need an award in Joe's name. The mayor supported it, and the architect supported it. And so we got it approved through your board. And we were so pleased to, we had a blizzard in Washington this year, 2 or 3 of them. And we went and at your board in a beautiful evening gave the first Joseph P. Riley Award. And it will be given by the mayors are not giving it Joe's Award. The beautiful thing, it will be given by the Architectural Foundation, which is the premier group in the United States. Ron Bruegel is my friend. The other partner we have in the Mayor's Institute of City Design, as most of you know, is the National Endowment for Arts. And we have Rocco Landsman, a former Broadway producer. He is now visiting cabinet officers talking about design. And so Nick and Story are somewhere, Tom McClyman on my staff. We're headed to LA for our first one there. Small, intimate meeting, and then to take vision home and get something done. And we're seeing it all the time. And we thank you, Ron, for your partnership. And I know you might want to say something about the award. Thank you.
Well, we love working with U.S. Conference of Mayors and Tom Cochran and your team, Tom and Mayor Kautz, thanks for letting us be on the program for a few minutes. So I'm honored to be able to be a part of this conversation this morning for 2 reasons. One is we're in my hometown, where I grew up, where I raised my family, and Mayor Cornett, you're doing a beautiful job here, and the city is so bright and shining, and a great example of what excellent mayoral leadership can do, because you and Mayor Humphreys and Mayor Noreck have been working over a long period of time to do what's happening in Oklahoma City, and it's so pleased and proud to be here. But today we're here to announce this new award that is being presented to mayors on an annual basis, the Joseph P. Riley Jr. Award for Leadership in Urban Planning. And the pictures you're seeing behind us are the dinner that we had last winter announcing the award. It's an exciting opportunity for us because of our partnership on the Mayor's Institute on City Design. We also have programs dealing with school design called Great Schools by Design, and on sustainable and green design, Sustainable Cities Design Academy, working with cities and their leaders to help you make better and more effective decisions as your city's principal urban planner. So the Mayor's Award, the Joseph P. Riley Award, will be given annually. It'll be nominated very much like the Americans for the Arts Award is presented each year. We'll have an application online after July 15th. We'll also be notifying you and your staffs when that nomination process will begin. And we'll be presenting the award each year in Washington, D.C., as well as in your home community. We think this is an exciting award not only to honor Joseph Riley, but also to recognize the outstanding leadership that you're providing in your communities to help make American cities more livable, more sustainable, and supporting greater quality of life for the citizens that we serve. So we're excited about this opportunity to work with Mayor Riley and the U.S. Conference of Mayors on this new honor. Let me just take a moment more to invite you to the Mayor's Institute on City Design Breakfast tomorrow morning at 7:30. We invite those mayors who have participated in the Mayor's Institute to come and tell us your stories. We do have new leadership at the National Endowment for the Arts, and so we're collecting stories from the Mayor's Institute, and we'd love to have you join us tomorrow morning for breakfast to tell us your stories. But also, for mayors who have not attended the Mayor's Institute, we invite you to give us an opportunity to talk to you about how you might participate. We will not have a Mayor's Institute on the moon, Tom, but we are having our next institute in Los Angeles in August and in Philadelphia in September, and then we'll be near Mecca in Charleston in October. So please join us tomorrow morning. We look forward to seeing you then, and we look forward to seeing the nominations for the Joseph P. Riley Jr. Award for Leadership in Urban Planning. Thank you. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you, Ron. Now, Mayor Riley, will you please come and say a few words? And we are so grateful to you. You have given so much to all of us. You have given us your wisdom, your knowledge, and your expertise. But most of all, you have given us your love and guidance on city design. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Elizabeth, for your kindness and your kind words. You know, when people, when I talk about the mayors, talk about the Conference of Mayors and my colleagues, I often say, among other things, you know, it's a group of really nice people, and you are. And this award is just an example of that, the kindness and generosity towards me, which is so meaningful. Just a few words, but I have to begin certainly by thanking Mayor Cornett for this wonderful meeting in his wonderful city, and I know all the hard work that goes on to make it happen. We had one in Charleston in 1989, and to say that as long as I live, which I hope is a long time, I will never forget the sight of and words of Polly Nichols and Susan Winchester in that beautiful service today. It is in my heart and in my mind and always will be. The Mayor's Institute for City Design very quickly is in part represented by what we saw this morning, because after the tragedy here 15 years ago, Mayor Norwick came to the Mayor's Institute looking for help. And the Mayor's Institute assisted in the initial planning and with the concept of a design charrette, and then supported the first planning charrette that encouraged the community to look not just at the two precise sites, but to look at that part of our city and to help them get on the track, which is one of the most beautiful and meaningful memorial sites in the world. The Mayor's Institute started with this idea, and we all have ideas, and we all know that it is not worth anything to have an idea and not do something about it. We mayors are doers. And so the idea I had, which will be explained as I go through it, was one that one morning early I sat down and put it in a letter to the head of the School of Architecture at the University of Virginia, who was a national leader in city design. And I had been there for a conference on what was called the politics of urban design. It was in the winter of 1985. And I said this: first of all, cities in America are, back then there was some worry about cities. The cities aren't going to die. They're going to be rebuilt. The question is, what kind of cities? Are they just regular cities, or do we build cities of great excellence worthy of our country? And the fact is that for a mayor, as hard as we work on budgets, we work on personnel problems, we work on political issues, but 50 years after that, there's likely to be very little evidence of our work or of that decision. But decisions about the physical development of our city, if they're wonderful, like what we saw today, then they will inspire and enrich the community forever. And if they're bad, there is a scar, there is a detriment that forever affects the city. I said in the letter that the mayors are the chief urban designers of a city. Not that we design with architectural pencils or now machines, but that every development that happens in our city comes across our desk. Whether it's financial support, if it's tax increment financing, or new market tax credits, or city funds, or if it's zoning, or if it's permits, or if it's political support or the bully pulpit, they all come across our desk. We have the power to shape them. But we don't have the skills. Few of us are trained in planning and architecture. But I said in the letter that mayors are smart, because if they weren't, they wouldn't be elected. They love their city, or they wouldn't try to be or serve as mayor. And mayors are very quick studies. In a moment, we will discuss immigration. Earlier this meeting, we discussed broadband. I mean, issues that maybe a few years before wouldn't have been a requirement of us, but we quickly study and we can develop an understanding of what it means to our city and provide leadership. So if all that is true, and it is, then if mayors had the opportunity to be confronted with and immersed in the principles of urban design, then with their leadership capacity and authority, they could positively shape and impact their city. Over 800 mayors have gone through the Mayor's Institute of City Design, and it is, I say with great pride, it has changed the face of America. From talking with the mayor of an adjacent city to Oklahoma City last week, who just went to a Mayor's Institute, to what we saw here today, to Mayor Brady from Rochester and a little park in the middle of which was once a harsh place, a little harsh place now in the middle of Rochester, on Mayor Ryback's new baseball park that opened this year, or from Honolulu to Providence, and from Anchorage to Miami, and throughout. There are examples of mayors who came to the Mayor's Institute for City Design and went back as not only as their chief urban designer of the city, but with capacity and understanding and a facility to help shape and direct. The question so often is, are we going to just get some more stuff, or are we going to get something that with its beauty and order and wise planning will be inspirational and will leverage further increased capacity for our city? I'm so grateful for this honor, more than you will ever know, and I hope that in the competition for the award and the presentation of the award will inspire all of us to be even more passionate and work even more tirelessly to make our cities more beautiful and livable. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Joe, for being honored with this award. You certainly deserve it, and we salute you. We're going to shift our discussion to immigrations, one of the most complex and controversial issues facing the nation today. Conference mayors A Conference of Mayors policy over the years has recognized the important economic, social, and cultural contributions immigrants from all over the world have made to our communities. But it has also recognized that our immigration system is broken and that, as a result, we have millions of undocumented immigrants residing in the country and even more trying to illegally cross our borders. For these and other reasons, we have long been calling for comprehensive immigration reform. We have convened a special panel to help us discuss this issue today. The panel will be facilitated by Janet Murguia, President and CEO of the National Conference of La Raza, joined by past President and Trenton Mayor Doug Palmer, and Phoenix Mayor Phil Gordon, who chair our task force on comprehensive immigration reform. To get us started, let's hear from our Vice President, Los Angeles Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa. Antonio.
Thank you, Mayor Kautz. You know, earlier today, for those of us who had the honor to visit the site of the Oklahoma City bombing, you couldn't help but walk away and reflect on the people who died, on the people who sacrificed, on the courage of the first responders. I walked away with this sense of what it is to be an American, a reaffirmation of what a great country we live in, a reaffirmation that whether you live in Oklahoma or New York City or any city in the United States of America, there's something about us that makes us different. It is this sense of America coming together in crisis that makes us feel, as Mayor Cornett said earlier today, even more united than we were before the crisis. My grandpa got here 100 years ago. Remember in the campaign, the first time around, people wanted to know, how long have you been here? I said, oh, well, Grandpa Pete got here 100 years ago. Grandpa Pete came to America with a dream. He worked hard. He toiled in the fields. He built a small business. It became a larger business. He lost all his money in the Depression. He was part of that greatest generation that made sacrifices during the war, that gave us the National Highway Act, the GI Bill, the greatest universities in the world. It's people like him that have made America great. Every one of us have a similar story about a grandpa, a great-grandpa, a great-grandma, an aunt or an uncle, mom or dad, or maybe even, some of you were foreign-born. We know the contributions of these many people who have come here with a dream. They've built our cities. They've built our country. They've fought in our wars. They've defended freedom. They've stood up to oppression many times around the world and have come here and said, wow, what a beautiful place this is. What an incredible country this is. A place of opportunity, a place of freedom. And I think for all of us today, that reflection pool, as you reflected about that tragedy some of those ideas came to your head. We're living at a time right now when the federal government and the Beltway that we oftentimes criticize has been absolutely clueless about what's going on in our cities. I have a 14.5% unemployment rate. Some of your unemployment rates are higher, some of yours are lower. All of us have been impacted by this economy. I would love to focus on the issue of jobs. I would love, as you would, to focus on the issue of infrastructure. I would love to focus on the issue of public education and what we do to provide the skills for our workers to compete here and around the world. But right now, living at a time when the federal government is just not addressing some of the challenges that we face, like our broken immigration system. We all know that after September 11th, securing our borders is something we all believe we ought to do. We all know that every country in the world has immigration laws, and that in a country founded on the notion of the rule of law, that we have to enforce those laws. We also know that the Congress has failed to fix this broken immigration system. And in the vacuum created by this failure, what have we seen? 70% of America in the Pew study supports comprehensive immigration reform. That number's gone down a little bit over the last few months. And it has in no small part because people are frustrated. It has in no small part because people feel like the government's not doing its job to secure our borders, that the government's not doing its job to enforce our laws. This organization has come out on a number of occasions in support of comprehensive immigration reform. This organization has said to the federal government time and again, fix this problem so we can focus on the real problems that we're facing in our cities. We wanted to put this together because we've got to get the attention of the federal government to address this issue. You know, we're very fortunate to have a man with us, a man of courage, a man who personifies for me what public life should be about. Mayor Gordon has stood up, even when it's not popular, to stand up on this issue. Mayor Gordon has spoken out in the case where the state of Arizona has passed a law that many of us believe is unconstitutional on its face, violating the supremacy clause of the Constitution, divisive and polarizing at a time when America needs to be together and strong and focused on the challenges ahead. As I watched Mayor Gordon, I was inspired. And I said, you know, I've got an unemployment rate, and you've all read about my budget deficits, and I know yours are very similar. Balancing a budget, you know, when revenues are down and unemployment is up. But watching Mayor Gordon speak out against this Arizona law inspired me. And I said to myself, well, what am I doing to stand up, to call on the federal government to do its job, to do what they haven't done with respect to our broken immigration system. And so we were hoping that we would have a conversation about this issue, about what's going on in Arizona, about our broken immigration system, about the need for mayors to stand up and speak out for comprehensive immigration reform, to speak out to get the federal government to do its job so you don't have a vacuum and have, 50 states putting together their own laws which do nothing to solve the problem at the end of the day. And so we were hoping that Janet would help us with that discussion, move us along, bring the attention of this issue so that we can put the pressure where it belongs on the Beltway that has failed its job to fix our immigration system. So with that, I'd like to ask Janet Murguia to say a few words.
Thank you. Good morning. Yes, it's still morning. Good morning, everyone, and I'm truly honored to be here with you all this morning, so many distinguished leaders from across our great country, and certainly to be part of this very interesting and I hope what will be a spirited and exciting but rational discussion around a key problem facing our country today. I want to specifically thank Mayor Villaraigosa for his leadership on so many fronts, but particularly on this issue of immigration. We greatly appreciate it. I'm going to be leading this panel with two other very distinguished mayors who have been quite courageous in how they have dealt with this issue, and we're going to want to hear from them in terms of their insights and how they have dealt with this issue. But we're honored here to be joined by Mayors Palmer of Trenton and New Jersey and Mayor Gordon of Phoenix, and we look forward to hearing from them. As mayors, you all are in the trenches. You get to see firsthand the opportunities and the challenges posed by immigration, and you are where the rubber meets the road. You are charged with turning policy into reality and see the effects of good programs, as well as having to be there to clean up when misguided policies are in place. For far too long, the federal government has abdicated its responsibility in the area of immigration, leaving state and local governments to grapple with the consequences of inaction. With the legitimate frustration we all feel in the face of that inaction and the demands of voters to do something, it is no surprise that we are seeing more measures at the state and local level dealing with this issue. Sadly, any measures put in place at the city or state level can only deal with the symptoms of federal inaction. At best, many of you have tried to lead in ways that preserve the safety and social cohesion of your communities. At worst, we have seen measures whose unintended consequences create more chaos and often trample the civil rights of U.S. citizens and legal immigrants. And while the public does demand action, they give their greatest support to real, effective solutions. The American public are hungry for a solution on this issue, and they are demanding leadership. The biggest irony in that regard is that the American public is in much more pragmatic place than Congress is on the issue. Poll after poll shows, even in the aftermath of the Arizona law, that the majority of Americans, as Mayor Villaraigosa pointed out, support a comprehensive immigration reform solution that restores the rule of law by securing our borders, fixing our legal immigration system so we have a legal and orderly system to serve the needs of American families and the American economy, requiring those who are here illegally to get right with the law, to go through criminal background checks, learn English, pay taxes and fines, and earn their citizenship. Putting smart measures in place that secure our borders by quashing arms, cash, and human smuggling networks. Cracking down on employers who game the system and who, as a result, hurt honest employers and undermine American workers. It's time to hold our elected leaders in Washington accountable. Our nation's immigration system is in crisis, and those who stand on the sidelines are just as complicit as those who are blocking reform. We need greater leadership from the White House. We need movement from the Democratic majority in Congress, and we need less finger-pointing and more problem-solving from our Republican elected officials. Some may say that there is no appetite to solve this problem, but as mayors, you know that doing nothing is a luxury American cities cannot afford. It is imperative that Congress and the White House deliver the real solutions America needs and usher in a system that levels the playing field for all workers and employers, advances our security and economic competitiveness, and upholds our best traditions as a nation of immigrants and a nation of laws. Mayors can play an incredibly important role in getting Congress to act, and I hope we can work together to achieve the solutions our communities need. We need workable solutions that will uphold our nation's values and move all of us forward together. And I want to highlight now 2 mayors who have found a way, in light of federal inaction, to demonstrate great leadership and try to address these issues. First, let me introduce Mayor Douglas Palmer from the city of Trenton, New Jersey. Many of you know him because he is the former president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, the first African-American mayor of Trenton, first elected in 1990, has multiple recognitions for his work on health care, public safety, and environmental cleanup. But in the context of this panel, Trenton was recognized across the country and noted in the New York Times for proactive strategies dealing with the local immigrant community's issues. Namely, Trenton put in place an ID card as a way to preserve and improve public safety and aid in positive immigration strategies. Please join me in welcoming Mayor Palmer.
Thank you, Janet. Good morning. It's good to see all of you. I'm honored to be on this panel with 2 outstanding mayors that provide strong leadership throughout the nation. Before I begin my remarks, I think it's almost perversely appropriate that on your tables, and Mary Kate, I'm not selling these for you, but Kevlar vests. And why I say it's appropriate today is because as we were meeting earlier, I saw, I knew, you can tell police officers when you see them, even if they're undercover. And I said, who's, Mayor Villaraigosa is not here yet. Who's those police officers? And Mayor Gordon said, and he had a sad look in his face. He said, they're for me. He says, because of this tough stand I took against our own law, I've received 4,000 death threats. 4,000. Every mayor in America goes through the meat grinder on tough issues. How we lead either brings out the best of us or inspires the worst instincts within our communities. Sometimes we put it off, and sometimes we put them off for too long. Immigration reform is among the most complicated and definitely among the most polarizing of our nation's challenges. The American political spectrum is as wide as the Great Plains, but the tone is very similar everywhere. People are furious on the streets of your cities as they are on mine. The Gallup, Harris, and Pew Research Center polls tell us it's no wonder. According to the Pew Research Center, by almost every conceivable measure, Americans are less positive and more critical of government these days, and I don't have to tell you that. Its April survey found a perfect storm of conditions associated with a distrust of government, a dismal economy, an unhappy public, bitter partisan backlash, and epic discontent with Congress and elected officials. Government became stereotyped and symbolized by Katrina, by weapons of mass destruction, by the bank bailouts. And that was all before President Obama took his oath. Before BP took center stage, it's time for government to demonstrate it can get things done. And there is no better place to start than comprehensive immigration reform. My city of Trenton is not very far from Ellis Island. There, from 1892 to 1954, more than 12 million immigrants entered the United States on that small island in New York Harbor. From 1855 to 1890, Castle Garden in the Battery, originally known as Castle Clinton, was the New York State Immigration Station, bringing some 8 million immigrants, mostly from Northern and Western Europe, through its doors. In the 18th century, and especially the 19th century, political troubles, restrictive religious laws, and deteriorating economic conditions in Europe generated the largest mass human migration in the history of the world. They made America. But when it became obvious that past ways could not handle the growing numbers of immigrants arriving, the federal government built a newly federated operated immigration station on Ellis Island, opening in 1892. The detail about Ellis Island is important because all of our cities and all of us, in one way or another, are related to American immigrants. In Trenton, we have more than 40 ancestral groups, from the Polish and Eastern European in the North Ward to the Italian and Irish in the East, to the multicultural Latino populations in the South, and in the West and throughout the city are the sons and daughters of slaves who came on the Underground Railroad or much later, when the 20th century civil rights movement beckoned. We are all immigrants. Now it is time for us to come together with good hearts and minds and find solutions that rise above bigotry. And we do have a few leading-edge examples. At Ellis Island, if the immigrants' papers were in order, they were healthy, the process took about 4 hours. We need to recast the welcome mat we all have memorized from the Statue of Liberty, adjusting it for our time. Until we achieve comprehensive immigration reform, our cities must do what we can in the interest of public safety. In 2007, New Haven was the first city in the country to offer ID cards to undocumented immigrants. In 2009, my city of Trenton, with an approach endorsed by the police department and the county prosecutor, encouraged the same sort of interim practical answer. It is smart to have ID cards that will empower people to report crimes regardless of their status as a U.S. citizen. People who work need to have bank accounts, or else they are easy prey for criminals. We know in way too many cities that undocumented immigrants are vulnerable because they carry large amounts of cash. So establishing a bank account is one good reason for the ID card. With ID cards, undocumented immigrants can come forward and report crimes. In my city, a coalition of community groups is issuing photo identification cards to undocumented immigrants to use at check cashing companies, libraries, stores, and medical clinics, and at public parks and pools. We understand that these IDs for undocumented immigrants go against the grain, where the bias is to define all immigrants without papers as criminals. But we need to differentiate between those who are dangerous and those who are as diligent as our ancestors were when they made their way from Ellis Island or rode their dreams into the Oklahoma land rush. In Trenton, in Princeton, New Haven, San Francisco, and other cities, our public safety officials have either issued or, as in our case, endorsed ID cards. This is not the policy that we sought. It is just one answer we need until the United States settles this issue once and for all and without prejudice. Trenton's coalition includes churches, civic associations, the police and fire departments, and the public schools, and is funded by the Walmart Foundation. Until the federal government gets its act together, these sorts of coalitions for the sake of humanity are bound to grow. Everyone with an open mind, most significantly the law enforcement agencies, knows that having an ID is vital to fighting crime. Having an ID is vital to treating the sick and the injured, vital to making business and society function, vital to having a community. The New York Times, correctly, I believe, says, "It is fantasy to think that immigrants will deport themselves by the millions if government makes them miserable and frightened enough." Well, we're not going to do that in Trenton. Whether we're talking about the Mexican border today or Ellis Island of yesteryear, our history and values as Americans are very much about immigration. Your family, my family, know this. We can't suddenly deny it out of bigotry or bureaucratic inadequacies. No, we're going to have to address immigration comprehensively and fully. And until we do that as a country, cities are going to take steps like endorsing community-issued ID cards. As the New York Times editorial put it, Arizona and Trenton are both grappling with a broken immigration system where millions live outside the law. Arizona's approach is stay anonymous and afraid, and then maybe you'll get out. Trenton's is tell us who you are and help us build a community. Neither solution will solve the big problem, but it is clear which is the more effective, humane, and responsible approach. As the Times said, Trenton's got it right. Now the United States has to get it right for all of our states and cities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor Palmer, for those very inspiring words. Now it's my pleasure to bring up to the podium Mayor Phil Gordon from the City of Arizona, first elected in 2003, garnering overwhelming support then and in his 2007 re-election. His top priorities are public safety, education, and jobs. He has unveiled a plan to make Phoenix the first carbon-neutral city in the U.S., endorsed by our Secretary of Energy. But we know that he has become a leading voice in the fight to get the federal government to pass comprehensive immigration reform. And he's also been very effective in talking about the unintended consequences for community safety and cohesion of state and local laws that often saddle local government and law enforcement with unfunded mandates and add more chaos to an already broken system. Join me in welcoming Mayor Gordon of Phoenix to the podium.
Thank you very much, Janet, and Mr. President, CEO, Madam Chair, all my colleagues and friends. Let me talk. My intent is to give a brief summation of what the Arizona law is. And I'm sorry that I'm up here today, that I'd be talking about this. As Tom and Mayor Villaraigosa have known, and Mayor Daley and Mayor Nutter, other good friends, I've always fought to get Phoenix known in the limelight of what City of Phoenix is about, a great city. And unfortunately, we certainly are known now internationally and nationally, but not for the reasons that make our city a great city. I didn't run to be involved in immigration, just like I assume many of you didn't run. I ran on the three issues that have always been my issues and should be and probably are every mayor's issues. And let me tell you why you shouldn't be involved as a mayor. Because you're going to use probably all your political capital. You're going to divide and split a community that is already split. You're going to bring danger to yourself and your family and to your significant loved ones. I regret two things, though. I didn't do it sooner and stand up for something that's morally wrong, economically wrong, legally wrong, and public safety wrong. And I regret that it's affected my family and particularly my significant other to the point where she's been targeted, and there's campaigns that have taken away her income and her life and smeared her in the paper when she didn't sign on to it. But if you don't get involved, it will be in your city if it isn't already. Phoenix, quote, known as the smuggling capital of the world, is known because it's a transit stop to each one of your cities. People are coming to our country because of hardship to feed their families, because there's a need here despite the rhetoric that American jobs are being taken away. I can tell you, at least in Arizona, there is a need for more people to be working in the resorts, in the restaurants, and in the fields that provide your very own food and mine. Let me say what I'm asking. I'm asking you, please, the politics, the rhetoric aside, to just continue to support the resolutions of this conference, to obtain comprehensive immigration reform immediately, and to secure our border, and to go after violent criminals and criminals, whether illegally here or legally here. Non-discrimination. But let me tell you, most people don't realize what the border is. If you can picture what we see on the TV on Afghanistan, where the might of the United States is trying to stop those terrorists from entering that country. The borders of Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, California are the same. Arizona's borders are over hundreds of miles long and millions of square miles deep between the population centers of Phoenix and the Mexican border. Our agents, federal and local police and state, risk their lives every day to stop syndicates and smuggling organizations that are more sophisticated than most of our local police. And then our local police are fighting in the streets to go after these terrorists, these people that torture and extort and kill innocent human beings. And not just in Phoenix, across the nation, they're all tied together. We can't build just a fence hundreds of miles long in valleys and mountains, longer and bigger than what you see on TV. But we do need security. And security requires comprehensive immigration reform. All that we are doing as a nation right now by passing laws like Arizona is rewarding those syndicates that are prospering, making more money on smuggling individuals now than they did months ago, 20s of thousands of dollars, with less risk because of what we've done. In order to get border security, we do need more agents in the cities and on the border to go after the criminals. But we need the comprehensive immigration reform so that we have the ability to stop the flow of undocumented individuals. Because right now, there is no immigration system. It's broken. When an immigration policy system says wait 20 years, there's no immigration policy. People can't come to this country legally that want to. And all we do is reward the criminals. My grandparents, like probably all of yours, as Mayor Villaraigosa said, came to this country. And fortunately, they weren't turned away and said, wait 5 years or 10 years or 20 years. And that was before World War II. But the rest of his family was destroyed. My family. I wouldn't be here if this country didn't face the challenges of immigration and allowed immigrants to come in then. So we need to get comprehensive immigration reform. The principles are simple. It's realistic. We are not going to be busing 12 million plus individuals that have citizens and undocumented within the same family across the border. All we've done is driven it underground. And all we've done is scared our immigrant community from testifying against those criminals that are terrorizing our cities across the U.S. So what is 1070 about? 1070 was signed into law by the governor of Arizona on April 23rd. It goes into effect absent court stopping it, court challenges, on July 29th. So far, there are 5 lawsuits that I'll describe later during the panel, and hopefully the federal government interceding in the next week or two. What does 1070 do? It makes it a misdemeanor to be in the state of Arizona without proper immigration papers, a crime. It requires mayors, it requires the police department, our 3,000 strong police, to check the immigration status of individuals that they encounter as part of a, quote, lawful stop, who they have, quote, reasonable suspect to be here illegally. Okay, some may want to accept that. It also requires that any person, not just Brown, who is arrested, shall have the person's immigration status determined before that person is released. Most of you know about cite and release, somebody that's going to come back into court. Now in Arizona, if there's not going to be racial profiling, every senior, every Anglo that is driving or stopped or picked up on the street that doesn't have legal proof of citizenship should be arrested. It makes it illegal for one to attempt to pick up a day laborer for work or individuals to seek work in a public place. And it prevents, mayors, it prevents police management or government to adopt any law or procedure which in any way would limit officers' individual discretion to fully enforce federal immigration law to his or her decision. It creates also a private right of action by anybody in the state to sue a city that does, quote, limit, in someone's opinion, that officer's ability to enforce what they believe is federal immigration law. The problems: it requires local police, let me emphasize, requires local police to prioritize immigration enforcement over all other criminal issues. It requires huge manpower and cash outlays for not only transporting and holding illegal immigrants while their immigration status is determined, but requires local government for the cost of incarceration because it's a misdemeanor, which could be months and months. In our particular case, we estimate the jail costs alone will increase $7 to $10 million the first year. And I told you about the private right of action, which allows any resident to sue for $5,000 a day on any incident. It also, by the way, puts officers, individual officers at risk, that risk their lives every day for violating the Civil Rights Act. And if determined to be willfully at fault, then individually liable, and not by the city, but individually, for the attorney's fees and for punitive damages. And it threatens, most importantly, on public safety, the ability of police to work with criminal victims and witnesses that are here undocumented. In our case, probably 30% of our population. So minorities that are fearful of being arrested before or after they point out a violent drug dealer or murderer or a smuggler, or that their family would be arrested, are now failing to report crimes for fear of being arrested. There have been 5 lawsuits by police officers, by Christian and religious leaders, by Latino leaders and clergy, and by the civil rights, including the ACLU, MALDEF, the NAACP, Anti-Defamation League, and others. In June of 2008, the Conference of Mayors took the lead by adopting a resolution calling for comprehensive immigration reform, reaffirmed in January of 2009 for comprehensive immigration reform and border security, and tomorrow before you, 2 more important resolutions that are just asking to please allow the cities to govern themselves, to protect our residents, and for the federal government to do what they were charged with when this country was founded. All it's asking is to increase border security and enforcement. It's asking for the protection of human and civil rights of both citizens and non-citizens. This is what this country was founded on. It's asking for more support for city and state governments, which are disproportionately, or in some cases exclusively, shouldering the costs of our broken federal immigration policy. It's asking for the use of new technologies to match up the foreign workers with jobs in this country that are going unfilled and needed to help our economy, and to locate those that are staying here then illegally. We have the technology today. We just have to implement it. And lastly, it asks for the elimination of current obstacles to citizenship and paths to legal residency for 12 million undocumented residents living in each of our states. I ask you again to please support it. There are currently 10 states introducing copycat laws, or harder than what I just described as in Arizona. That's 10 already. And now some cities are determining to go it alone and introduce their own. We need to get the federal government involved now, and we need to turn back what is embarrassing this country and hurting this country from a security basis as well as economically. Thank you very, very much for your consideration and your leadership.
We're going to move to the question and answer format of this panel. We have a question right away. I'll go ahead and take a question from the... Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Well, good morning. Am I on? First of all, I'm Mayor Bob Walkup of the great city of Tucson, Arizona, right? So I want to, first of all, I want to make a statement, if I can. And first of all, Phil, I support absolutely all of your efforts for the great state of Arizona to get back on track, and certainly the city of Tucson. But I am considered a frontline mayor. The city of Tucson is 60 miles from the Mexican border. I am an engineer more than I am a political leader, so I'd like to, if I might, just cover some of the data and statistics relative to immigration. I want to fill in some of the blanks, Mayor Palmer, with some of the things that you talked about. The region of Tucson is about 1 million people. The city of Tucson is 550,000 people. And in 2007, we estimated our illegal population at any given time was about 90,000 illegal immigrants in the Tucson area. With the employer sanction of 2007, that reduced the number from about 90,000 to around 40,000. It had a significant impact on the total number of people that we had into the city. Today, that 40,000 is broken down into 2 groups of people. The people that are what I call permanent party, they live in Tucson. They have lived in Tucson for decades, and they operate below the radar. The remaining 20,000 mostly now is drug and not people looking for jobs. It is becoming a very severe issue of the passage of people coming through the border managing drugs. But let me tell you about the permanent party within the city of Tucson, because it needs to be understood who they are. It's about 20,000 people, which is about 3,000 families. 3,000 families have about 9,000 children. So keep in mind where I'm taking you on what is the impact of the illegal immigrants within the city of Tucson. And just so you know, I went to every single hospital and asked the question, what is the impact of health care at the emergency room for the illegals within the city? As best they could tell, it was about 16 to 18% were unfunded compensation for services rendered. Illegals were only 1.5% to 2% of that number. So it's a very minor number associated with the emergency room. I went to the police and said, what is the impact on crime rate in Tucson? Now, mind you, these people live in the city of Tucson, and I can assure you, as the children go out the door, their mother tells them, do not bring any discredit on this family. So they operate well below the radar. So they are not impacting the crime rate in Tucson. But now let's get back to the children. 9,000 children, 70% are already citizens. So that leaves 2,700 children that are undocumented and illegal. That cost to the city is about $17 million, because the state provides about $6,500 for those students. Now, if you were to invest in anything, investing in education of young people, whether they're illegal or not illegal, is the right thing for our society to be doing. Let me get now back to Mayor Gordon on the issue of what's wrong with 1070. I am a resident expert on 1070. I mean, you can't be a mayor in the city of any city in Arizona and not understand word for word what it said. My city council and I, within 2 weeks of the passage of that bill, sued the state of Arizona to prevent the implementation of House Bill 1070. We brought an injunction against the state. I know Phil made that move, right? And he was the first person to take the lead, gave me a call and said, Mr. Mayor, we need some help in this regard. We have 2 cities that have filed injunctions in the state of Arizona against 1070. I'm not sure what's going to happen. But let me tell you what's wrong with 1070. There are 4 things wrong with 1070. It doesn't address the issue of immigration, certainly at the border. All the things, Phil, that you talked about. But let's get into the impact on citizenship and civil rights. The probability of running into an illegal immigrant by a policeman in the city of Tucson is remote because they operate below the radar. So you're going to be running into people that are citizens that don't have documentation. And that's a civil rights issue. That is a major concern. Second thing, police officers, unfunded mandate from the state government, and that's wrong. The third thing, we haven't mentioned, economic impact on our community. 3 million legal people visit the city of the state of Arizona and the city of Tucson. 35% of our mall sales are for Mexican visitors and tourists that have the right to be there. What a significant impact that would be in the city of Tucson. So I absolutely support that this is a federal issue. It is not that difficult, in my opinion, to implement a guest worker program and to have some kind of a program that recognizes the people that are in this country. One last thing. The House Bill 2162, which is a complement to 1070, establishes the limit for trespassing as a crime, as one misdemeanor, the fine not to exceed $100. And it's rarely implemented. City of Tucson, for trespassing, is a misdemeanor. The fine is $162, and you'll probably get a ticket every time. So the issue of what is the offense? It's a misdemeanor. The fine is less than $100. We ought to be able to figure out a system to be able to recognize that there are not criminals that are in this country. There are people looking for work and people that need to be recognized. It is a mayor's issue, and I heartily support the League of Mayors, Conference of Mayors, for the effort that you're doing. It is something that we can do something about. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor Walkup. I had a question, putting the focus back on Congress. What is it that mayors can actively do to engage their congressional delegations to act on this? Can you all provide any insight on that?
Tell you, with mayors organizing and standing together and going to the White House and going to the halls of Congress, we can get the comprehensive immigration reform in the border security. Right now, it's in the forefront, but it will slip if we don't stay focused. And particularly, we need to move right after November. I would like it before, but realistically, we're being told that not until after the November elections. Let me tell you, the votes are there in the House, and they're within 2 to 3 votes in the Senate. So that's going to take standing up and making this an issue that can't go away. And so I'd ask the Conference of Mayors under its leadership that we organize continued movement, visits to the halls of Congress with businesses, and I'm just being direct, and primarily with businesses that don't have a tie and a benefit to, quote, immigration, but rather have mainstream America, which includes immigrants, at its focus. So if we can partner with the business community, we can get this changed early next year.
We have a question. I've got a couple.
Yeah.
Mayor Coleman?
Yes. My name is Mayor Coleman, and I'm from Columbus, Ohio. Columbus is named after history's #1 immigrant, Christopher Columbus. And I want to give you the Columbus experience in all this. First of all, I want to commend Mayor Gordon for your courage, because I think it took great courage for you to take the stance, both of you mayors, Tucson, take the stances that you have taken in an environment that I know has put your family at risk and put others at risk, and it is probably not very popular in Arizona to be taking the position you are taking, but I want to say thank you on behalf of the rest of the country for your stance. And I took a similar stance in Columbus about the Arizona state law. And in my community, received a similar type of national backlash and local backlash from folks all over. And the #1 question was, why do people in Columbus, why should I care as a mayor of Columbus, Ohio, about what happens in Arizona? And the answer is because what happens in Arizona could be happening in Ohio. And we see injustices in other parts of the country. It's important for mayors to stand up all over the country to make sure it doesn't happen in their communities. And in Ohio, there's a similar law that's being at least discussed in the state legislature. So we want to put it on record up front that we will not support that kind of law in the state of Ohio. Secondly, this Arizona law is unconstitutional on its face for many reasons. It's the wrong thing, but it is an issue that needs to be addressed at the national level to have a comprehensive reform on immigration. But the biggest concern I have about the Arizona state law is that it creates a laboratory for hate. Those who have a passion to deal...
A laboratory for what?
Hate.
Hate.
H-A-T-E, hate. And those who have a very legitimate concern about immigration and a passion on that issue are now sided with those who hate. And it gives those who hate the opportunity to stand up and join forces. And I saw that in the emails I received and the outrage I received around the country in my city. It's absolutely incredible how divisive this is in our nation. And that's why, because it is so divisive, that it is critical that the Congress and this administration make this a national priority to deal with immigration on a comprehensive level for all states together, so that every state is treated with this issue at the same level at the same time.
Thank you very much. If I may try to be very brief. First of all, thank you very much, Mayor. And I am remiss without acknowledging Mayor Walkup, and I think Mayor Smith is somewhere in the audience from Mesa, but Mayor Walkup taking the the front now on the legal side. Somebody asked just a moment ago, what can we do? Mayors, just to be direct again, mayors of any city can get more press, sometimes a lot of negative, than any other elected official in the state, usually even more than a governor. And by raising that press level as to why this is wrong, both in Arizona and why it's being considered, would be a very important thing. Secondly, this is about the civil rights movement again. This is the battle. In Arizona, and I can't even believe I can say this, but in Arizona, individuals wearing either Nazi or neo-Nazi uniforms stand up with elected officials and aren't pushed away. Now, everybody's got their freedom of right to say what they want to say, and we've seen that in other cities, but not standing with sheriffs and those running for county attorney and those running for state senate. So when this hate has now become mainstream enough that those racist, outward racists don't have to hide under a rock and pronounce their views, but can do it as part of a mainstream, quote, patriot, it's a real dangerous situation for all of us. We're not going to solve it, in my opinion, in Arizona. We really need all of you, because it is about all of us, to band together and drive what this conference has always been able to do, is put issues front and center and get them changed in Congress, because they are afraid from the political side of mayors and what they can do in the press. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Mayor Dicker?
Yeah, Mayor Dicker from Racine, Wisconsin. You know, when people constantly talk about how we're going to divide each other, I always remind them that I'm Native American and you're all illegal immigrants. So we have to start. Mayor Coleman's absolutely right. We have to stop dividing. The thing is, Mayor Gordon, thank you for everything that you're doing. In Racine, the Hispanic population just passed up the African American population as the largest minority population in our city. One of the things, though, that I think we also have to organize on and help to work on is that the federal government was going into my city and arresting illegal immigrants for being illegal immigrants. And I called the Federal Department of Justice and I said, one simple thing for you guys. Go arrest my gangbangers, go arrest my drug lords, leave my people alone. They have done nothing wrong. They have committed no crime, and yet you're wasting my valuable taxpayer resources on this, and it's wrong. That's one thing I think we as mayors have to stand up and start telling the federal government. The other thing is, I wanted to find out from you, how else can we help to resolve this problem? And I'll tell you what we have in the city of Racine. A good friend of mine, Primitivo Reynoso, owns 3 businesses. He's an illegal immigrant. He brought another illegal immigrant wife with him. They have 3 daughters now, which are considered citizens of the United States. When we talked to the Senate about this issue, they said, the best thing you can do right now, Mayor, is tell Mr. Reynoso to hide and be quiet and don't do a thing. And I said, that's not an answer. He runs 3 businesses, he employs 12 people, and he's trying to expand his businesses. That is not an answer. So the question that I have is, what more can we do to help organize? Because I can't give that answer to Primitivo Reynoso that, hey, go hide in your house, shut down all your businesses, because if you do anything publicly, you're going to get deported.
Yeah, I wanted to mention something about the public safety issue. I don't think there's a mayor here that doesn't understand, first and foremost, our priority is to keep our community safe. Every one of us, if you ran on 3 issues, one of them is public safety. I'm very proud of the fact that in Los Angeles, violent crime, since I've been mayor, is down 40%. Homicides are down in numbers we haven't seen since 1967. We're safer today in LA since at any time since 1952 on a per capita basis. Our police chief will tell you, and you may have seen him in the paper, that one of the reasons why we're safer is because our community comes forward and collaborates with our police department in an unprecedented way. They trust our police officers like never before. The respect and trust that they have for the police officers is at its highest level ever, according to a Harvard study. There was a time in my city when people didn't come forward. They didn't come forward when they were victimized by crime. They didn't come forward when they witnessed a crime, because they were afraid that if they came forward, they would be arrested for their status. If public safety is our number one priority, I would submit to you this is a public safety issue. When people come forward, when they've been violated, assaulted, witnessed a crime, that makes our neighborhoods safer. Second, in our resolution, we all agree, if you've committed a serious crime, whether you're here legally or not, you ought to be held accountable for it. On the issue that was just mentioned in Racine, I've asked the federal government on a number of occasions, hey, why are you putting all your resources over there? I said, I need you to put your resources with serious felons, undocumented felons. You know what we were told? We don't have resources for the undocumented felons, but we do have resources to go after people who are working. And I said, well, why don't we turn it around? Why don't we just turn it around? Go after the serious felons first, and then if you still have resources, you know, live in a nation of laws, you feel compelled and you have the resources to do it, do that. But when they tell us they don't have resources to go after serious felons, there's a problem. That's the problem with the broken immigration system. Let me address the issue of the one of my heroes is Mayor Coleman, the laboratories of hate. What's happened? Okay, reasonable people can differ. Broken problem, a vacuum. Let's pass our own laws to make it a priority. Columbus. I said Columbus. Yeah. Coleman. To make it let's pass our own laws to enforce our immigration laws. What's happened since? Another law to eliminate ethnic studies. Another law, a directive in the Department of Education that says that if you have a heavy accent, you can't teach ESL. That would exclude my governor. My governor. And you know what? If my governor wanted to teach an ESL class, more power to him. Thank you, Governor Schwarzenegger. Thank you for doing that. That would include him. We're seeing now proposals that say strip the citizenship of children who are children of the undocumented. There are 5 million of them. Strip their citizenship? For what? Did they break a law? For being born here? The laboratory of hate that you speak to, Mayor Coleman, is why we've got to fix this broken immigration system. Our jobs are to bring people together, to unite people, to take on the challenges that we face in our cities, whether it's crime or transportation or public education. The vacuum that's created with a broken immigration system fuels the laboratories of hate. It fuels 50 different and maybe hundreds of different laws when there should only be one. So I just want to thank you both, because I think you reaffirm just why we need to put the pressure on this federal government to fix the problem.
Ms. Mejia.
Thank you.
Members of the panel, Mayor Gordon, Doug Palmer, Mayor Villaraigosa, thank you so much. It's a very difficult issue that we address this morning, and it's an issue that I'm sure will be raised again tomorrow. And I know that those who want to speak to this issue can also speak to the issue tomorrow when it is brought before the body. But you have brought great thought before us today for us to reflect on and to think about as we address our business tomorrow. So thank you to the panelists. Thank you, Ms. Mejia. We really appreciate your help. Ladies and gentlemen, we are joined today with a high-level representative from the Kingdom of Bahrain. Bahrain, which literally means the kingdom of the two seas, is a small island country in the Persian Gulf. Bahrain has the fastest growing economy in the Arab world and is the world's fastest growing financial center. Ms. Vivian Jamal, Director of the Business Development of the Bahrain Economic Development Board, is here with us today to say a few words about how cities here in the U.S. can work with Bahrain to promote business development in our cities. Ms. Jamal.
Good morning, or good afternoon now, mayors, leaders, and distinguished guests. Thank you, President Coates, for those kind words. The first thing I would like to say is a big thank you to Oklahoma City's Mayor Cornett for an incredible day he put together for us with the Oklahoma Chamber on Friday. I'd also like to thank the U.S. Conference of Mayors for the warm welcome and hospitality we've received over the last 3 days. I hope that we can reciprocate this in the future. Special thanks go to Mayor Kasim Reed of Atlanta and Mayor Ann Parker of Houston, who've kindly hosted us over the past 2 weeks on a roadshow that we're doing here in the U.S. Now, we've signed a number of memorandums of understanding with the two cities, and we look forward to cooperating with them over the coming period. Now, I've heard that mayors are where the action is, and having been here for 3 days now, I understand why. But before I get into that, let me tell you a little bit about Bahrain. Bahrain is about the size of Oklahoma City, a small island off the coast of Saudi Arabia. But we may be small in size, but we're actually very big in spirit. We're at the heart of the Gulf region. That is very much a growing market, now worth $1 trillion, and within the next decade, that's set to double. Now, that is a market equivalent in size to the economy of India, and this creates opportunities for companies in your cities to increase both exports and jobs. Put simply, the Bahrain Economic Development Board is here to help you access that opportunity. For us in Bahrain, the United States is one of the most important markets in the world. We're here to help American companies understand the great market opportunities available in the Middle East, and to show you why Bahrain is the best place to access the Gulf. Our business rules and regulations are very much like yours. We've signed a free trade agreement with the U.S. in 2006. And that should encourage you and give you increased confidence to do business with us. There's much in Bahrain which may pleasantly surprise you. Our country is the most open and democratic society in the Middle East, both multicultural and tolerant. And President Coates, you'll be pleased to know that women are very well respected there. Forbes magazine recently named Bahrain as the best country for business in the Gulf. And HSBC Bank ranked Bahrain 5th worldwide in terms of the best place to live for expatriates. I'm sure you'd find the lifestyle in Bahrain both warm and hospitable, just as we found it here in the US. Now, we have the most skilled and educated bilingual workforce in the Gulf region, so your companies don't have to solely rely on a costly expatriate labor. We offer a low-cost environment for business operations, and your companies can own their businesses 100%. There's also no need for a local partner unless the company wishes to have one. What may also pleasantly surprise you is the fact that we have absolutely no corporate or income tax, and you can fully repatriate your profits. Bahrain is proud of its reputation as an innovator. Bahrain was the first country in the region to start formal education for both women and men at the end of the last century. We were also the first to give women the vote and the first to transition to a democracy. Last but not least, we were the first to diversify our economy away from oil, and now we have the largest and growing financial services sector in the Gulf region, in addition to a thriving technology, manufacturing, and logistics base. Now, for these reasons and more, American companies that you all know, Kraft, Cisco, American Express, GE, JP Morgan Chase, and most recently CNBC, have chosen Bahrain to base their regional headquarters. We believe that by following these principles and by doing the right thing, we will attract businesses looking for opportunities in a growing and expanding and prosperous region, but also companies that are looking for long-term relationships. We're interested in talking to mayors that would like to bring delegations from their cities to Bahrain. We believe we offer an opportunity to help U.S. companies grow their businesses, and that will ultimately create more jobs for Americans here. We've learned a great deal this week about the key roles that the mayors play in their local economies across the United States. And we've admired the collective efforts and contributions that you all make to the national economy. So we're here at this conference because we realize the importance of engaging with mayors. And we want to share in America's renowned entrepreneurial spirit, which is also taking off across Bahrain and the Gulf region. I'm delighted that there have been a number of trade delegation visits between our two countries, and that we're hosting a Made in the USA exhibition at the end of this year. The Bahrain Economic Development Board looks forward to working with you, your cities, and your business communities. I again want to emphasize that we'd very much like to invite any mayor who wishes to bring a delegation of interested companies to Bahrain to do so, and we will reciprocate, of course. You will see what a great opportunity it is to be in Bahrain in order to expand your businesses, and why we're known as business-friendly Bahrain. Thank you very much. It's been a great pleasure and honor to be here, and we look forward to welcoming you in Bahrain. Thanks. Thank you. Thanks, Barry.
Thank you, Ms. Jamal. Interesting you present such enticing remarks to our business community. But there was one thing that I took away from that, and that is it will grow jobs in America, right? Okay. I don't want to lose any jobs. Jobs, 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 mayors. Right. Jobs, jobs, jobs in America. Now, it's my great pleasure to introduce someone that I have worked with this last year to bring together the mayors of America and the mayors of Europe, Pedro Ballesteros, the director of the European Union's initiative to encourage mayors and other local officials to take aggressive climate protection effort. 2 years ago, Mr. Ballesteros was instrumental in creating the Covenant of Mayors, which is modeled on our own U.S. Mayor's Climate Protection Agreement. More than 1,700 cities of Europe have signed the Covenant of Mayors, and we have much to learn from and to share with our European mayors. After this plenary session, the CEO, Tom Cochrane, myself, and Mr. Ballesteros will sign the letter of understanding which Mr. Ballesteros and Mr. Gianluca Spinacci has brought so that we can work together and move forward. So, representing the Committee of the Regions, Mr. Ballesteros.
Thank you very much, Mrs. President Couch, dear mayors, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, thank you for the opportunity not only to speak to you now, but also I've been here for 2 days and I've learned a lot. And this is something very positive for us to understand the fields of cooperation, how we can provide a better service to our citizens by learning from your good experience in the U.S. I work at the European Commission. The European Commission, to make it brief, is a kind of pseudo-federal administration of the European Union. We know that we are in a process of building something, but we are not yet in there. And the European Union, most of you are aware, decided 2.5 years ago, unilaterally, to commit to reduce our CO2 emissions by more than 20% by the year 2020. It was our offer to the other partners in the world in the climate change negotiations, and we went for it. All the member states approved this, with the small problem that in order to reach this objective, either we count on the cities or we go nowhere, because most of the potential is in the housing sector, is in the buildings, is in clean urban transport, is in the mobility in the cities, is in the improvement on the local infrastructures there. And then we got a wonderful inspiration from the U.S. Conference of Mayors. We learned a lot on your grassroots movement, on their initiative, the capacity of leadership of the mayors. And the idea was, why instead of trying to impose laws and mechanisms, as you've been discussing before for other areas, to the cities, don't we try to consult with the cities whether or not they would voluntarily go for a commitment of going beyond the objectives of the European Union in terms of CO2 reduction, showing the way to others. And, well, we were expecting a limited number of large cities, and to our surprise, to our lovely surprise, we have, as President Couch has mentioned, as of yesterday, 1,787 cities in 36 countries that have joined for this commitment. And thank you. And let me see that this commitment is very particular. It's not simply to say, I will reduce my CO2 emissions through sustainable energy by this date. It's, I will prepare an inventory of emissions. I will produce a sustainable energy action plan explaining to everybody, to my citizens and to anybody else who wants to look at this, how I intend to achieve this objective for the public and the private sectors, for the whole of the territory. I accept a scrutiny on my action plan, and I accept ex ante termination of my involvement in the Covenant of Mayors if in case of non-compliance, in case that I commit but I do nothing. So it's a very strong commitment in exchange practically of nothing. It's a commitment in which we've been learning on this, is our proposal to empower the local authorities in the most direct way. Empowerment because we recognize that they are the ones that are taking the initiative. It's an initiative that comes from the local authorities. Empowerment because they accept scrutiny, they are accountable on their initiative. This is pure democracy, to be accountable on what you do. And finally, empowerment, things, a new movement, because it's giving a lot of credibility to the movement. We have to understand very often, I work at European Union level, very often there are problems, and now in these times of economic crisis are very evident, there are problems of the resilience, the reluctance of the federal or European Union governments to give resources to the local authorities because they don't know how this is going to be used, how this is going to contribute to the policies. By this very strict system, we try to build upon the credibility, upon the transparency, in order to get more resources that are going to accompany the empowerment of the local authorities. But I'm not here just to describe. I could speak a lot. I'm here basically because I was so fortunate that after this first inspiration on the U.S. Conference of Mayors, then I could get in contact with Elizabeth Kautz, with Tom Cochrane, and to learn a lot from them on what you are doing and to think together, and very openly, very collegially, to think together that maybe it's interesting that we think together what we can do in a number of areas in order to help each other to find win-win situations and to defend a number of messages. Very briefly, just let me mention you a few elements of what could be elements to think together. In the European Union, we have estimated that we will need between 2012 and 2020 an annual investment of 25 billion euro, more or less $30 billion a year in energy efficiency in our cities. This looks a lot, and it's not a lot. It's the most sound, the most sensible, the most interesting investment that you can do in these times. It's much better than these hedge funds, and even just to invest in gold, as I saw the other day in a paper. It's crazy. To invest in energy efficiency, to invest in quality of the buildings, to invest in the quality of life of our citizens, all of this put together is a good investment, makes a lot of money. The only problem is that it's complex. And our financial decision makers all over the world, they are not used to complex things. They're used to big operations, to these derivative things, to big projects, things like that. And therefore we are dealing with any city has to produce a program of urban renovation for 100,000 houses, and this is complex. You need a lot of technical assistance. You need to bundle together projects that are economically interesting to make out of this a single economic financial operation interesting. We are investing a lot of money on this, and we are working a lot with the financial sector in order to attract them to this. And we would like to share this with you. I'm sure that you are doing a lot of things here in the US, and I would like also to learn from this, because this is the big, at least for us in Europe, the largest European project for the future is how to renovate our cities. This is by far is much more important than to put many men in the moon or to do I don't know how many bridges and airports. How to renovate our cities. This is the most difficult thing to do and the most necessary, and we would like to share it with you. Just another hint of areas for cooperation. I know that the US is not yet in carbon markets, in cap and trade systems. One way or the other is proposed by the administration Obama. We are on this. The problem is that all of this is also prepared by people used to the market measures. And what we try to defend is, if there is a carbon market, the cities that are responsible for most of the dispersed emissions in the buildings, in the mobility, in the clean transport, they should have access to those markets. Cities should get, municipalities should get money in order to pay for their energy efficiency programs out of these carbon markets, instead of sending, as we are doing now, billions to China for investments in so-called clean coal plants and I don't know which other things. And in order to do this, we will need to create a system of certification of the action plans of the municipalities in such a way that if you are deciding in your city to reduce your CO2 emissions, you have a methodology that demonstrates how this goes. This has a value in the market. And you sell your rights, your reduction rights to the markets, and you get money for this. Or if those markets are taking a longer time, at least also to offer to the federal government a clear, transparent way on how your actions contribute to the overall objectives. These kinds of things are things that need of a lot of work, and for us the dream will be to do this work together, because if from the cities we create the system, we defend a common cause in both parts of the ocean, we know that not many people are going to like that the cities are taking part of the cake, but if in both parts of the ocean we are together for this, I think this is fair and will be another area of this. I finish by another element of contribution. Just imagine, you know how disgusting are those negotiations at United Nations on climate change, how frustrating. I know that you were having a lot of cold in Copenhagen, Elizabeth, and in these frustrating things they are. We have to understand that national governments sometimes they are prevented of reaching agreements because of other considerations, industrial policy, trade policy, etc. But maybe if American and European cities together, they can show to the world that the peoples of America and Europe, they can get together with the most immediate, with the closest politicians for those commitments, because as soon as we are free of our strategic trade, commercial considerations, we are for that. I think it's a very positive message to convey on this. The democratic cities of the world, how the democracy is a major movement for conscience and for positive action for our citizens on this, and together we can go on this. And finally, this is also the most loyal movement that we can undertake. By doing this, by having cities, as many in the US, that have a clear commitment to reduce CO2 emissions, you are helping the whole of the US. We are helping in the European Union, the whole of the European Union, in our positions by making it easier for them, for the people who is negotiating Copenhagen, now Cancun, and then let's see where, those that are negotiating those climate change things, we are being loyal to them, assuming their difficult position and offering, and in a quantified way, our contribution. This is what I would like to open up for you to think together. I'm convinced that all of these things, we should have a natural process of thinking on them, digesting them, selecting something, and then getting together in the most human and positive, sympathetic way. Before saying to you thank you for all of this, I would like just to also to mention that there will be a presentation of the President Mercedes Bresso, President of Region Piemonte in Italy, that she has been appointed as President of the Committee of the Regions. That is our sister institution dealing with relations with the regions and the municipalities on this. But thank you very much for your attention and for thinking on those things.
Thank you, Pedro. Thank you. Okay, there we are. Thank you, Pedro. Now,
dear Mrs. President, honorable mayors, I would like to thank President Elizabeth Kautz for this opportunity to address the U.S. Conference of Mayors. As the new president of the European Union's Committee of the Regions, I follow your activities with the greatest interest. Your current resolution on the adoption by U.S. cities of the UN standard to measure greenhouse gas emission is a remarkable step forward in tackling climate change. A number of U.S. cities can be considered best practices thanks to your climate protection agreement. Let me just congratulate President Mrs. Kautz personally. The development of a solar garden is surely bringing concrete benefits to the citizens of her own city, Barnesville, by reducing significantly energy costs. Some European cities are models for the change as well. In Europe, together with the European Commission, the Committee of the Region is promoting the Covenant of Mayors to spread green growth and tackle climate change. Up to now, over 1,700 mayors have signed the covenant. We clearly need to learn more about each other's projects. In this regard, I intend to work with you to put together a memorandum of understanding. This will allow American and European cities and regions to exchange good practices in the field of energy efficiency and environment. In this regard, our medium-term ambition is to apply shared methodologies and criteria. We could also work together to extend our partnership to other local and regional authorities outside the United States and the European Union. In Oklahoma today and in Cancun in December, we need to stand together, as we did in Copenhagen. I am honored, therefore, to invite President Elizabeth Kautz to our next plenary session in Brussels early October. There we will also have a green village with over 300 regions and cities exchanging their best practice on tackling climate change. I invite the U.S. Conference of Mayors to showcase with us. Improving our environment is a duty towards our future generations. Let's join together the forces of the U.S. Conference of Mayors and of the EU Committee of the Regions. I wish you a very fruitful meeting in Oklahoma.
Thank you, Pedro, and for bringing the remarks of the new president. Thank you. Now, before we adjourn, let me just say to you that there are some unfinished business going on here between Villaraigosa and Mick Cornett. So I believe there's a payoff that has to happen here, Mick?
You know, the problem with these mayoral bets involving the NBA playoffs is that the winning mayors don't forget.
Oh, is that what we're dealing with?
That's what and during the first round of the NBA playoffs, I called Mayor Villaraigosa in one of my moments of bravado and suggested that he and I make a bet on the first round between the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Los Angeles Lakers. And as many of you may recall, as soon as I made the bet, the Thunder rallied and won Game 3 and won Game 4, right in the Ford Center where we're going to be tonight. And then Game 5, the Lakers got lucky in Los Angeles. And then in Game 6, the Lakers won with half a second to play in the game. Half a second. And Antonio is insisting that that counts. And the wager was that the losing mayor had to put on the jersey of the winning team. And so...
Hey. Well, let me just say that it does count. And you're right, mayors do have long memories. So on behalf of the Lakers organization and the city of Los Angeles, we'd like one of America's finest mayors, Cornett, to accept this gift with the same graciousness with which he made that bet.
Thank you. Let me put this on. See if it fits.
It'll fit.
Jeez. Man, this hurts.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear.
Oh man.
Great sport.
Thank you.
Mayors, we are adjourned, and there is a casual luncheon out here, but I also want you to remember that at 2 o'clock we have an emergency meeting on the BP Gulf oil spill, and that will be in Ballroom B, second level, Cox Convention Center. And it's open to everyone. This is also a critical and important issue, Mayors, and so 2 o'clock, Ballroom B. And we'll see you then. Lunch is out there.
Let's go sign.
And we are signing the Memorandum of Understanding upstairs.
Let's go do it, but we have to go straight to the executive committee.
Oh,